how do we balance the tension and the constant trade-off between needing to do better in the technical detail and the operations and the people that execute the work and manage the work, their level of comfortability about how much work's being added? So I had a recent scenario where working with a client, and they know that they need to do better in the management of their critical controls. And so part of that then is doing better and having more detail around the critical control performance standards. So how we want the critical control to perform and the verification strategy. So what are we going to do to verify? And when we get more detailed in the requirements of critical control, then it opens up scope for additional requirements in terms of how we check and verify the critical control and the level of detail we go to, which is the right work from a pure technical perspective, because there's more areas that we can check to give ourselves the best chance that this critical control will be sustainable for the life of the critical control. However, what also happens, and in this scenario happened, is when the operations in the line can see how much detail there is and what needs to be checked, and the work that we do, we actually also put in an approximate duration, then they could see, and then there's a question or a conflict with, well, I don't have a resource to do that. Well, that feels like too much. Well, that's too much work. And so we've got, in one hand, the organisation saying, we need to do better in the detail, help us do better in the detail. And on the other side is, well, here's how you do better, this is what it looks like. Then there's some default pushback, well, that's more work, there's too much work. And I see this a lot, and I'm sure other people have seen this, and I'm really interested in other people's views on how you've resolved. What comes to my mind, which I look to do as much as possible, is say, well, look, if we add this thing, we can remove this other thing. So potentially there's other checks and inspections that the organisation's currently doing that we can turn off, dial back, because now we have a more focused check for our critical control, as an example. Or we can look to then piggyback off other inspections and synergise and things like that. So that's an interesting, tension. I'm really curious about how others have done that. There's some leadership stuff here as well. But that's an interesting thought from the field, is around, yes, if we want to do better in more detail, it can add work, and potentially it's the right work. How do we then navigate through that to end up in a position that works for everyone? So that's my sharing today. What do you think? What have you seen? Okay, bye-bye.